Hello everybody, in today's video we will be doing the chapter 24 of ACCA F1 Business and Technology, Personal Effectiveness at Work. So this is a very easy chapter. So we're going to learn about how the personal effectiveness helps in a business. The accountancy profession is often demanding, requiring individuals to perform a large volume of technical work both accurately and before key deadlines, such as the month or year end. This section of the syllabus is designed to ensure that you have the skills necessary to work effectively in this challenging environment. So time management. What is time management? Time management is something we all practice in our daily lives in order to be more efficient and productive, and so that we don't procrastinate. Time management is the process of planning and controlling the amount of time that is spent on specific activities, usually with the aim of increasing overall efficiency and productivity. So time management has several purposes. So it is to plan the best use of time management, complete more in the time available, eliminate wastage, devote more time to the really important issues. So this will allow you to refuse excessive workloads, monitor the progress of key projects, allocate your time to more important tasks first, plan each day efficiently so you get as much done as possible. Time is a scarce resource. Failure to manage this will lead to low productivity, wasted time spent on non-essential tasks, missed deadlines, poor quality of work being produced, perhaps due to work being rushed to meet the demands. So what are the various time management techniques? The first one is that we need to spend some time in planning and organizing the work. So using time to think and plan is essential for good time management. Not only should you plan what tasks you wish to accomplish each day or week, you should also spend time in reviewing your schedules to check for the problems or changes to your workload that require rescheduling. So we need to spend reasonable amount of time in which we make plans and we make goals which we need to achieve in the certain period of time. And not only just planning, we also need to keep reviewing them and to see that if we have done the work or not. Remember the old saying, failing to plan is planning to fail. So obviously be sensible with the amount of time you spend planning. Clearly, you do not want to spend so long planning that you no longer have time to complete your work. Produce an activity log. This could include a breakdown of the time spent in a typical week, divided between different activities such as work, home, study, leisure, and travel. Consider what proportion of your time is important to you, important to others, what can be delegated and what can be avoided. So we need to prepare an activity log. And then we should cost our time. Every occasion where you save an hour or put it to better use, you become more cost effective. So we need to produce an activity log and we need to cost our time. We will assume you earn $50,000 per annum as a basic pay. On top of this, the direct and indirect costs of your employment are $25,000. You work 37.5 hours per week for 44 weeks of the year. So what is the cost of your time per hour? So our work is 37.5 hours per week. So in a week, how many months are there? There are 12 months. And what is 12 into 4? Okay, wait. First, let us understand what the question is. We are working 37.5 hours in a week for 44 weeks. So they have already given the number of weeks we are working. Okay. And then we have to know that how many hours are we actually working, which is nothing but 37.5 into 44, which is nothing but 1650 hours. So we are working 1650 hours in 44 weeks of the year. So what is the cost per hour? So see, we assume that we get 50,000 per annum. Okay, so that would be nothing but right? Did you understand how did this come? So they said that 50,000 is the salary. On this we have direct and indirect costs. So we added 25,000. And then how many hours are we working? 1650. So we divide this, right? Which would be nothing but 45.45 per hour. I hope you're able to understand. We need to make lists. We need to plan the whole of the coming week in advance, and then we need to make a list every day before we start our work. Refuse to do anything that is not on the list. And then we need to prioritize. We need to look at the lists and assess the tasks which are based on their importance. If the consequences of the failure are significant, or it comes from a powerful stakeholder such as manager, and urgency, whether the deadline is near or the accomplishment of the task is near. So these are the two things we need to look at while prioritizing our work, whether it is urgent and whether it is important, and on what factors it is. Once these two factors have been analyzed, the approach to this task can be formulated as shown below. So this is how it is. So let's make it here. Remember, we've even done this kind of a figure in the power interest matrix. What was it? Let's first revise the structure of that. Interest was here and power was here, right? And we had a high low here and a low high here. I hope you remember that. Now let's see what the approach is in prioritizing the work. We have urgency here and we have importance here, and it is low high here. However, in the Mendelov one, we had a high low here, but here we have the same, which is low high. So how important is the work and how urgent is the work? So when the work is low important and the urgency is also low, then we can delegate it or we can just cancel it. If it is not urgent but it is high important, then we can delegate it for now and it will become urgent as the deadline approaches. When it is very urgent but it's not important, then we can delegate it or we can remove from the job because they don't have importance. When it is urgent and important as well, we need to deal with these tasks and devote plenty of the time, right? So let's just recall the thing again. So importance is over here and urgency is over here. Low high, low high, low high, right? Barriers to effective time management. The main influences on a person's use of time are outlined in the diagram. How do we use the time management? So what are the influences? We need established jobs with routine and predictable work, have fewer barriers than new or developing work. Jobs involving contact with others are more prone to interruption than those with no near contacts. People with offices of their own can operate an open door policy for staff communication, but a closed door policy when a physical barrier is needed. The location of colleagues, customers, and suppliers can contribute to time wasted in traveling. Some organizational cultures favor strict adherence to protocol and procedures, discouraging informal contacts. Others encourage an open access communications policy that can stimulate the time wasting. An individual's personal work standards are going to be influenced by the type of decision making in the firm. The attributes and style of the job holder depend on personality and preferences. Example, some are more assertive and find it easier to deal with colleagues who waste their time. Barriers to effective time management may be internal or external. So what are the various barriers which we face, which hinder our time management? So what are the barriers to effective time management? So effective. So internally, discipline, procrastination, lack of motivation. Externally, it would be workload issues, available resources. So how do we overcome the internal barriers? So we need to be assertive. We need to identify our time wasters and resolve to deal with them, and we need to learn no and delegate it. We need to identify and make use of personal biorhythms, uptime or downtime. We need to conquer procrastination. We need to find out what causes you to put off doing something and remedy it. Example, a feeling of inadequacy could be due to lack of information, lack of particular skill, or lack of training. We need to overcome the external barriers. We need to do the right thing right. Doing the right thing is effectiveness, but doing things right is efficiency. We need to focus first on effectiveness, identifying what is the right thing to do, and then we need to concentrate on how to do it right. We need to eliminate the urgent. So urgent tasks with short-term consequences are often done to get to the detriment of the important tasks. So we need to break the big jobs into smaller parts, and we need to use negotiation to improve the use of time. Which of the following would tend to act as a barrier to effective time management for an employee? The employee's job requires little or no contact with other people. The employee has their own office. The employee needs to regularly visit employees who are located in another town. Obviously, if we have to often go to other location, it's so much of wastage of time, right? The role of information technology in improving an individual's time management and general effectiveness in their work. So IT sector or the information technology can be extremely useful when improving an individual's time management and general effectiveness in their work. So how does the IT industry help us in effective time management? So there are a wide range of things. The first one is email. Earlier, we used to write mails on paper and send it where we want to, and in order for it to reach them, it takes about like 3 days, 4 days, and it used to be very time consuming. But now, since we have email, with a click of a button we can send the message we want to within few seconds. So this allows individuals to electronically send messages and attachments such as documents and pictures quickly and efficiently. Emails can be sent to a large number of recipients across the world at the touch of a button, significantly speeding up communication within an organization. The second one is video conferencing, like Zoom, like Google Meet and all of that. So this is an IT solution that aids in conducting meetings. Attendees do not need to spend time traveling to the same location to have a meeting. Instead, the video conference enables them to hold a virtual meeting over their computers from wherever they are. This significantly reduces the costs and traveling time required to attend a meeting. Systems such as Skype and WebEx help to facilitate this. Next, we have EDI. What is EDI? EDI is Electronic Data Interchange. So, electronic data interchange allows information sharing between computers. So, we can share information and data within computers using electronic data interchange. This removes the need for much data processing. For instance, a customer may electronically place an order with their suppliers. This order will automatically be placed on the supplier system without the need for physical goods request forms to be printed, posted, and then proceeds. So this saves the time and it increases the accuracy. And then we have intranet. So internet is something which the whole world can use. Intranet is something which the organization can use. Only the organization can use. These are internal networks where employees can access a central store of information. This speeds up communication by the company with its employees. Intranets often contain company policies and procedures as well as training on key issues such as ethics or on health safety. Now we have office automation. So this includes systems such as word processors, spreadsheets, databases, and desktop publishing. So these systems combined allow for processing of high volumes of transactions at speed, saving the business time, and it also saves the business money required. And the next thing is home working, which is nothing but work from home, that instead of traveling to the organization and instead of paying the rent for the office, we can do the work at home, which will save the costs. So these are the ways in which the IT has improved personal effectiveness: email, video conferencing, EDI, intranet, and office automation, home working. Now let's go to what competency frameworks are. So competencies are critical skills, knowledge, and attitudes that a job holder must have to perform effectively. A competent individual will be able to contribute effectively to a business almost as soon as they are appointed. As such, it is important for an organization to ensure that all staff are appropriately qualified and trained for their role in the organization. So, competencies are the skills and the critical thinking abilities and the knowledge, everything which is required to be in the position or the role in the company. Competency frameworks attempt to identify all the competencies that are required by anyone taking on a particular role within the organization. A list of key competencies is produced, which can be used as a benchmark to either ensure that the correct individual is chosen for the role or as a way of checking that an existing member of staff has all the up-to-date skills which are needed. So by making competency framework, we decide what skills and what abilities we are looking for in the individual who is performing a certain job. So we can make a competency framework and find or see if we have a suitable person for them. Most of the competency framework cover the following categories: communication skills, people management, team skills, customer service skills, results orientation, problem solving skills. So these are the things. A research analyst working for the government might have the following factors within their competency framework. So we need focus, we need delivery skills, we need learning and improving, critical analysis, decision making, constructive thinking, developing constructive relationships, communicating with impact. So each competence will then be supported by a high level of description. For example, learning and improving could be described as acknowledges own development needs and seeks new skills, learns from others and adapts. Now we have test to understanding. Consider the following list. Which of the competencies will be required by a typical accountant? So what would an accountant need in the following things? Obviously, it would be to be a proper accountant, we need all of these competencies. Employers should regularly keep the competency framework updated for their employees and assess whether they still have the appropriate skills and abilities needed for the jobs. If not, the employer may wish to consider continuing professional development. So what is continuing professional development? It's a form of training, which will involve employees attending training courses or reading technical information to update their skills. Ensuring that employees have up-to-date skills will minimize employee errors. So when you train them or when we see that they do fulfill the competencies, we can minimize the errors, and this can also improve the customer service and satisfaction. And obviously it would also increase the employee motivation because they feel like they're being valued by the organization. Now we come to coaching, mentoring and counseling. So personal development, so there are three things: mentoring, coaching and counseling. So what are these three? I know that it might seem like all of the three are same, but then there are differences between the three and we look into them right now. So what is mentoring? So mentoring is nothing but helping somebody, giving them some guidance, giving them some advice and supporting them and to facilitate learning. What is coaching? Coaching focuses on achieving a specific objective. So in mentoring, there is no objective which we need to achieve, but in coaching, there is a specific objective which needs to be achieved. And what is counseling? So counseling is something we know. What is therapy? So counseling is basically problem solving and helping people to deal with themselves emotionally. So what is mentoring? As we have just seen, mentoring is the process where one person offers help, guidance, advice and support to facilitate the learning and development of another. A mentor usually, though not always, is a skilled senior member who offers practical advice and support, can give technical, ethical and general guidance, can help with the development of interpersonal and work skills, is an impartial sounding board, is a role model who can help the mentee to improve their career goals. What is coaching? Coaching focuses on achieving specific objectives, usually within a defined time period. It is more about improving the performance of someone who is already competent rather than establishing competency in the first place. It is usually on a one-on-to-one basis. It is set in everyday working situation and is an ongoing activity. It involves gently encouraging people to improve their performance, to develop their skills and increase their self-confidence in order to develop their career prospects. So most coaching is carried out by a more senior person or a manager. However, the key issue is that whoever carries out the coaching must obviously be expert in whatever he's coaching about. So there's a institution, there's a school, so they're coaching somebody. They have an objective that the person excels in their exams, so that is an objective. Whereas in a mentorship, there's no objective, it's mainly generic. Now we come to counseling. So counseling involves an individual helping another to identify and deal with a problem or problems. It involves the counselor helping someone else to explore his or her thoughts, feelings and behavior with the intention of reaching a clear understanding of the issues he or she is facing. So what are some of the skills which a counselor needs to have? The counselor obviously needs to be very observant and they must observe their behavior, which may be symptomatic of a problem, and a counselor must be sensitive to whatever the other person is sharing. There is a need to acknowledge and understand that another person's beliefs and values may be different from their own, and then they need to be empathetic towards the person. There is a need to appreciate that the problem may seem overwhelming to the individual, and we need to be impartial, and there is a need to remain impartial, and we need to refrain from giving any sort of advice. What is discreet? There will be situation when an employee cannot completely open unless they are sure that the comments will be confidential. So they need to be discreet, which means they need to keep their whatever they share with them, we need to keep it confidential, private, right? Through active listening, the use of open questions and clarifications, the counselor encourages reflection and helps the client identify issues and solution. Now read the test to understanding 4. I'm giving you a minute and try to answer it on your own, and then I'll discuss. JHU PLC is a manufacturing company. One of its new employees, Alice, is fully trained but is not as productive as some other worker. The management of JHU have therefore asked a more experienced employee, Mason, to give Alice advice on how to improve her productivity. So what would Mason be? See, Mason is a more experienced person, first of all. With that only we got to know that it's a coaching thing. But then it also mentioned that there is a certain objective which is need to be fulfilled, which is making her more productive. So we have an objective and we have a more experienced person as well. So obviously it is coaching, right? And now we have what a personal development plan is. So a personal development plan, what is that? A personal development plan is a clear development action plan for an individual that incorporates a wide set of developmental opportunities, including formal training. During their career, employees are increasingly encouraged to manage their own development. In consultation with management, they might be asked to set up personal development plans whereby they set targets and propose actions and activities achieved to them. So development is more general than training. So there is a difference between training and development. I know that we might think that it's the same thing, but there is a difference. So development is something which is more generic in nature, right? It's just developing an individual. but training is something which focuses on what exactly has to be developed. Development is more forward looking and oriented towards the individual, and it is concerned with enabling the individual to fulfill his or her potential. So, training is immediately practical. Training is related to the job performance. Development is something which is ongoing in nature, it has no immediate practical application. Over time, development enables a person to deal with wider problems. So, how do we prepare a personal development plan? Oh, just a second. Yeah. So, how do you prepare a personal development plan? Where did it go? So, in order to prepare a personal development plan, the first stage is we need to analyze where we are right now. We need to know what is our current position. So, we need to analyze our current position. That is the stage 1. After stage 1, we need to go to stage 2, which is we need to set some goals. What do we have to achieve? What are we supposed to cover? Performance in the existing job, future changes in the current role, moving elsewhere in the organization, or developing special expertise. And then, when we have analyzed the current position and we have also set the goals, we need to draw an action plan, the pathway which we need to follow in order to achieve the goals. So, the stage 1 is analysis of current position. So, it requires the individual with the manager to carry out a personal SWOT analysis. So, we know what SWOT analysis is. We've done in the previous chapters. Strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. So, we need to carry out a SWOT analysis of the individual. This can be as simple as assessing what an individual does by referring to the job description, evaluating which aspects of job an individual likes and dislikes on one hand, and those aspects that an individual does well and not so well in the others. So, strengths must be connected to opportunities. So, that would be the tasks which a person likes and they also do well. Strengths connected with threats. It is a task which the person dislikes but does well. And then we have weakness, which means we do it, we don't like it. We like it. It is an opportunity for us. We like it, but we're not good at it. And then we have weakness and threat. We do not like also, and we do not do well also. So strength is something which we're good at. Weakness is something which we're bad at. Opportunity is something we like, and threat is something we dislike. So after analyzing the current position, we need to set goals. So personal goals should be set for the individual. The tasks the person does not do well are examined and the reasons are established. This can take the form of an alternative and more traditional type of SWOT analysis by examining the person's strengths or weakness. Particular weakness should be identified as being the cause of the failure to carry out certain tasks well. This should then inform a personal set of objectives in order to overcome the weaknesses. So we need to identify what objectives we need to meet, what we need to overcome. So then we have SWOT analysis. So strengths are what advantages are there, what do we do well, what resources do you have access to, what do other people see as your strengths. Weakness is something, what could you improve, what do you do badly, what you should avoid. Opportunities are something, where are the good opportunities, what are the interesting trends that we are aware of. And what is threats? Threats are something which has what obstacles do you face. Are the job specifications for your job or products changing? Is changing technology threatening our position? Could any of your weakness seriously threaten your job or business? So goals should have the characteristic of SMART objectives. So whatever goals we make, it needs to fulfill these conditions. So the goals we are setting, they must be very specific in nature. They must be clear and we need to know that what is meant by it. And then we need it to be measurable. We need to be able to measure the goals. It will be possible to assess the extent to which the objective has been met. And then whatever goals we are setting, it should be realistic and it should be achievable. The objective represents something that can be implemented in the real world and can be met by the resources available. So S for specific, M for measurable, A for achievable, R is relevant. The objective is linked to the organizational overall work outcomes. It must be relevant to the organization. Timely, we need to delivery of the objective should be linked to a specific date. There should be a deadline and it should be done in a timely manner. So whatever goals we have, they need to have a characteristic or SMART. They need to be specific, they need to be achievable, they need to be measurable, they need to be relevant, and they need to be done in a timely manner. So after analyzing our current position and after we set our goals, the third stage is to draw up an action plan. Now we need to draw up an action plan following which we will be able to achieve whatever we want. An action plan and training program should be based on addressing and identified weaknesses and trying to move more of the tasks of the current role into the do well side of the matrix on the left hand side. It is easier to improve the performance of individuals in tasks that they like performing than in those that they do not. When drawing up and implementing an action plan, some degree of control is necessary to monitor the extent to which program is achieving. So we need to have some sort of control in order to fulfill the goals which have been set. Control processes give people structure, define methods, and indicate how the performance will be measured. It is reassuring to know that you are required to do. So there have to be some sort of rules and procedures and methodology which will be followed in order to get our objectives. So now we come to test your understanding 5. Arya works in a call center for GFD PLC. Her role is to attempt to convince the customers who are planning to leave GFD that they should remain as customers of the company. Her supervisor has recently set her the following objective. Arya must retain 100% of the customers that she speaks to. So what is missing in that? So first let's recall what SMART was. Specific, measurable, achievable, timely, and what was with R? Come on, giving you a minute. Tell me what was with R. And try to answer this question, so I'll discuss the answer. R is relevant. So the answer to this is D, because it's not achievable, right? How can you retain 100%? It's not practical, it's not achievable in nature. Now we come to the importance of continuous monitoring and feedback. Once the goals and personal ambitions have been defined and the person has begun the development plan, the monitoring must begin. So just by setting the action plan and telling somebody to do the personal development, that's not done. We also need to have a follow-up plan. We need to look at it. We need to give them some feedback, right? Monitoring in simple terms means watching over something that is happening. Control processes give people timely and relevant feedback on their performance. This is information about how they did in the light of some goal, and that can be used to improve performance. Feedback will usually be provided by the manager or supervisor and should be concurrent, or certainly not long delayed. So concurrent means something that it should be done regularly and quickly. It should not be delayed, then it makes no sense, right? People naturally want to know how well they are doing on a particular task, and they need the reassurance. Everybody needs reassurance, right? Feedback should be clear and frequent. So the feedback must be clear and should be frequent, and it can be achieved only if there is a continuous monitoring of the tasks. Feedback can also have a motivating effect by providing recognition of the work done, which in turn provides incentive to sustain and improve performance levels. Recognition, praise, encouragement create feelings of confidence, competence, development, and progress to enhance the motivation to learn, right? How am I doing? Just imagine being completely denied any feedback whatsoever, no guidance, no praise. So, that is something which is not okay. Whenever we do the work, we expect to know how we're doing. We expect to be praised. We expect to be, given some sort of feedback so that we maybe improve ourselves or we know where we stand. Feedback should occur throughout the year as it provides useful information for the employee, which will help them adjust their activity on an ongoing basis. That is true. So now we come to conflict. So what is a conflict? Conflict is a chaos, or it's a difference of opinion. We have done this. Most jobs involve coming into contact with other people on a regular basis. To work effectively, we need to therefore be aware of potential sources of conflict that could damage our working relationship with others, as well as how we can deal with conflict when it arises. So, conflict is something which is defined as any personal divergence of interests between groups and individuals. While some conflict can be positive within the organization, so some conflicts can be positive, we can learn something from it, we can improve ourselves, right? But conflict is often destructive in nature and it harms the relationship between the people, and it creates a bad feeling and hostility. Such destructive conflict will in turn normally damage the interests of the organization. So let's see the various types of conflict. They are vertical and horizontal in nature. So when it is vertical, there is a conflict which occurs between individuals at different levels of the organization. This is vertical, which means this is a management chain, right? So it happens, for example, if there's a conflict between a junior employee and his manager, like due to lack of communication, disagreements over remuneration, disagreements over employee workloads due to poor coordination, and personality clashes. So that is the vertical way of conflict. What is the horizontal way of conflict? Which means you're in the same team but you're still having conflicts. This happens when you're in the same level of the hierarchy. This could be a conflict between individual directors on the board of directors because of role ambiguity, lack of available resources, and personality clashes, right? Within a business, the director of HRD and the finance director may find themselves in a conflict over. Okay, so this is something you need to look at. Read it by yourself. This is just an illustration of how the vertical and the horizontal conflicts occur in an organization. So how do we avoid conflicts? What are the ways in which we can avoid the conflicts from occurring? So the first thing is we need to have a good communication. So conflict can be caused by misunderstandings, false communication and everything like that. So we need to make sure that managers and staff freely and regularly communicate with each other about issues that arise. Then we need to have some rules and procedures. So having clearly defined rules can help avoid the conflict. If all members know what they are responsible for within the organization, then they are less likely to conflict with each other. And then we need to avoid the blame culture. So if we just keep on blaming other people, it will lead to nowhere. And we need to ensure that there is a fair allocation of resources. So good communication, rules and procedures, avoiding the blame game, and ensuring a fair allocation of resources. Conflict management strategies. So what are the various strategies which the manager follow to kind of take care of the conflicts? Let's see. So first thing is denial. Denial is when a manager just ignores that a conflict exists and they just don't intervene in it and they just leave it as it is. And then we have suppression. Suppression is when the manager can threaten the parties punishment, that they can just be like, just stop having this conflict, and they can be sort of authoritarian. And then we have reduction or negotiation. The manager can act as a neutral third party and negotiate a compromise agreement between the conflicting parties. So reduction or negotiation is just mainly compromising and taking a decision. What is resolution? Resolution is when the manager seeks to find out a win-win kind of solution wherein both the parties are happy. Reduction and negotiation is when somebody is getting compromised, but resolution is when like there's a win-win situation and everybody is happy. Two managers are currently working on separate projects. They both need the help of the same skilled employee in order to complete these projects. This has led to a conflict between the two managers who want access to the employee before the other. So they are fighting because they both want the employee. A director has decided to try and deal with this conflict. However, he is unsure which to do with. For each of the four approaches, state which conflict is used. Okay, so we just need to see whether it is a denial, whether it is suppression, whether it is resolution, or whether it is the compromise one. What was the compromise one? Reduction or negotiation. So the first one is do nothing and assume the managers will be able to deal with the problem themselves. So this is a clear way of denial strategy, right? Then we have talk with the managers and see if an agreement can be reached to share the expert time between them. So this is reduction. Why? Because we're looking for an agreement. So which is obviously reduction because a compromise is taking place. Investigate to see if other workers within the company had the same skills. There would be enough to, so it's a win-win situation, which is a resolution. Order the two, okay, ordering somebody, which means this is nothing but suppression strategy. I hope that's clear. Now we have what are the consequences of ineffectiveness of work. So what happens when an individual or a worker is ineffective in his work? It leads to poor quality of work, missing deadlines, lack of communication, having a poor attitude, failing to maintain appropriate level of key skills. And how would it affect the organization as a whole? Loss of reputation, poor productivity, poor motivation, customers don't come here, and lack of information from staff about key issues. So it is therefore in the organization's best interests to encourage its staff to develop themselves and continually improve their performance using techniques which we have seen. So conflict between individuals always damages the operations of an organization and should avoid. That's not true. As we know, sometimes the conflict can be healthy also. Two employees are currently in conflict with each other. They only have to work together for a short period on a mutual project. But the conflict has progressed to the point where they have stated that they are no longer willing to work. So what should they do in this? Their manager is currently very busy but is aware that it will be impossible to reach a compromise. So then what should they do? Obviously, they should use suppression in such a situation because nobody is willing to cooperate and nobody is willing to compromise. So obviously suppression is the only way out. Which of the following is one of the SMART criteria of objectives? Reliability, mandatory, relevant, and suitable. The answer is obviously D, which is relevant. All these are not in the SMART objective, right? Competency Framework lists the qualifications. Is that true? No, it is false because it has the skills. It does not have the qualifications. Test your understanding 12. There are a number of ways of dealing with staff on a one-to-one basis within an organization, including coaching, mentoring, counseling, and appraising. So for each type of development below, which work situation is the most appropriate? So one of discussion between a manager and employee about promotion. Something which is related to promotion is obviously appraising only, right? An ongoing worker relationship between an experienced worker and a newer member of the staff with the goal of improving the less experienced worker skills. There is a goal, so it is obviously coaching. a one-off discussion to try and help a worker deal with the problem they are having in the work. So they're having a problem in the work, so we need to deal with that. That is obviously counseling. An ongoing working relationship where a senior member develop themselves personally and in the career. So what would that be? It would be A, which is mentoring. Wait, I wrote the wrong answer here. Yeah, it is D, B, A, and D, B, C, and A. So we need to select one of the following. So the first one is D, we know that. Coaching is here, B. Appraising is the first one, and counseling is here. So I hope you're clear with the chapter. Oh wait, we have another question. An organization may choose to use counseling as a way of developing its staff. So what are the features we need in a counselor? They should be sensitive, and there should be discretion as well. So the answer is B and D. So that's it, we're done with this chapter. I hope you've understood the chapter. The link of the playlist is given in the description box below. Please go and watch the rest of the videos as well. Thank you.